Welcome to Crown Level Confidence with Kalia Janae, the podcast where we empower and inspire you to achieve unstoppable confidence and self-belief. I'm your host, Kalia Janae, a wife, mom, entrepreneur, as well as a certified life coach and motivational speaker with a background in humanities and communication. I'm excited to navigate this transformative journey with you. In each episode, I'll bring you candid conversations, practical tips, and inspiring stories from remarkable women who have conquered many challenges and risen to new heights. Get ready to have your crown straightened as we listen, learn, and laugh together so we can level up. Let's dive in. All right, everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Crown Level Confidence, Conversations with Kalia Janae. I am your host, best girlfriend, life coach, all the things. I'm here for y'all, and I have brought to you a very special guest for this week's episode. Let me tell you about Lauren Nicole Peters. Lauren, say hi to everybody.
Hello.
Doesn't she sound lovely? Okay, so Lauren Nicole Peters writes about feminine leadership, self-awareness, and building a powerful personal brand. Yes. She lives in San Diego and helps women all over the world discover their unique gifts and how to turn them into a brand that makes money as well as matches the lifestyle that they deserve to have. So hello, that's all of us, right, on this call. And I can tell y'all from personal experience, Lauren is every letter of that, okay? When you clicked on this podcast and you said, wow, that woman looks fantastic. She looks amazing. She's living her best life. Lauren was the one who captured that moment, y'all. So this is the truth through and through. Lauren, we are so excited to have you here with us on Crown Level Confidence. So y'all know we are women on the go and we like to keep things moving around here. So Lauren, can you share your personal journey, right? How you discovered the importance of feminine leadership and self-awareness in your own life. Kind of lead us into that.
Yes. So I am 36 now. And when I was young, I had no role model of what I would consider good feminine leadership. There was some aspects in the women around me and my mom, but I had the best relationship with my dad. I had the best relationship with, some of the men in my life. I had a couple of female cousins, but ultimately I was seeing a lot of the women in my life operating in a way that modeled things like overworking, overgiving, not giving themselves enough, not knowing how to deal with their emotions in a healthy way. And so what ultimately led me to this was there were certain moments in my life where I would see women in my life and I would be very inspired by them. I'm sure we all have a list of women where we're like, how do they even do that?
Right.
And I started paying attention to this. I grew up as a tomboy, right? Because I loved my dad. We would just be so silly together. We would go everywhere together. And at 22, I had a super feminine roommate, or what I considered feminine. And I was like, whoa, she's got some weird qualities. I'm just so intrigued. All the men wanted to date her, and that was not my experience growing up. And then I learned a little bit then. And then when I turned 29, there was a couple of experiences, workshops, women I met, where I started to learn about this concept of what it was to be a woman. What it was to be feminine, what it was to be a female leader. Because again, all around me, we see male leadership quite often, whether that's healthy or unhealthy male leadership, but that is strongly represented. What we all know is a little underrepresented or just not shine a light on as much as we would like is how do women do it, and how do they do it in all their different flavors, right? Because the way that I would lead is different from the way that you would lead and the sister next to you. So at 29, I started to realize, wow, there are a lot of places in my life where I am actually rejecting my own feminine qualities as a result of the negativity and the bad ideas I had about what it was to be a woman because of what I was modeled as a child. So from 29 to where you see me now, I've just made it my life's work to understand who I am, not just as a woman, but like who I am as a child of God, what my gifts are, how God wants me to use that in the world. And ultimately, it's led me and a lot of the women I work with to creating a side project or a business, or a side business, ultimately making money off of it so that we have an outlet to put these gifts.
Yeah, that is so powerful, Lauren. See, I told you, you're probably driving like, wow, yes, that sounds like me. What I'm hearing, Lauren, is clearly we all have different upbringings, right? And while we're growing up, those are what they consider our formative years, right? You're forming how you learn about the world and how you see yourself, and you realize, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you realize at some point you were working against yourself. You were completely, shedding off certain things because you didn't like the results of what you saw, but not really realizing that there could be something else different until you got to that turning point to say, oh, well, I don't have to completely deny certain areas of myself just because I don't want that particular result, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think a lot of women kind of face that, right? Well, I don't want that outcome, so I'm not gonna even go down a certain path at all. And it's like, well, wait a minute. You have options, but a lot of people don't realize that they have an alternative. And I think that it's really important to highlight there. So, excuse me, after you determined that you could do that for yourself and you've seen the results in your life, would you say that that's what led you to become a women's success coach in these areas? Or what other influences did you have that made you decide, okay, I'm gonna carry other women under my wing, or I'm gonna take them on my back and we're gonna do this together?
Well, there's this, I don't know if you share this or anyone on the podcast, there's this fire in my heart, in my belly, where I know that I came here for a purpose. And even though I actually don't know if I knew that growing up, but when I turned 24, I had this dream where I died and I went to heaven, and then I came back and I woke up and I just knew. I knew that we were all here for a purpose, and so was I. So that could be for another podcast, that whole dream situation. But I knew when I woke up after that dream that I was meant to do something with what God gave me. And so there's that. Right? A lot of us, I think, walk around with that fire in our belly. There's something here that I'm supposed to do for other people, with other people, and it's something big, and I might not yet know what it is. That combined with this natural journey I'd taken through advertising, marketing, and branding, that was my education. Also, I have this love for personal development, understanding the human brain, behavior, communication, influence, persuasion. Those are a series of what I love. And so what brought me ultimately to women's success coaching and personal branding consulting and building this brand that I have is all of those things combined, which is part of the process of exploring what our gifts are. That's ultimately where I ended up.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm thankful not only because I've personally benefited from just knowing you, being in your circle, being a client of yours, but I'm grateful for the lives that I know you haven't even touched yet, right? Because it takes a certain level of obedience, right? Even at the most basic level, really, to say, okay, I have a calling on my life. Even if you don't know what it is, you still need to seek God, or you still need to have the diligence to see it through. And a lot of people, even if they get that revelation of, oh, I'm supposed to be doing something, they may let fear get in the way of acting on that. And then they'll look up 5, 10, 20 years and say, oh man, did I miss my calling? Is it too late? So kudos to you, right?
Yeah, thank you
for getting the jump on that. So let me ask you this. Right now, I know we've seen a lot of shifts, right? And maybe I feel like sometimes our particular generation can be a little complacent, but again, that could be for a different podcast. But in terms of women's movements or where we see women today, right? There's still a lot of traditional notions of leadership and how success, like as far as women, I'm tripping over myself because I'm so excited, y'all. You can't see me. But we know, for instance, when you think of the first thing that comes to mind with a doctor, you think of a male doctor and a female nurse, right? It's 2023 and we still have those heavily ingrained leadership roles or, schemes in our minds. How do you see the landscape changing for women in leadership, right? And how can we leverage people like you in your coaching and what you have to offer in order to change the narrative around what women in leadership looks like?
I love that question. Because in my opinion, what I'm seeing is still a little bit of stuckness regarding what women should do in these industries that are usually male dominated, and even in industries that females are starting to get more leadership positions, I've seen them still operating in a more masculine way, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, whether that's healthy or unhealthy. So what I see moving forward, an opportunity for women, and this is an opportunity for me too, right? Because I'm still leading people every single day, still learning new things. There's always something to learn. That women are still in a place where they're needing more examples, and they're needing more reflections and more role models and more discourse about what it truly means to be in their feminine energy in a way where it's inspiring others to take action, right? Because if we're talking about being in a corporation or in a high-performing team where we're really getting stuff done, the more empowered characteristics of when a woman is in her feminine energy, and also when she's in her masculine energy, right? Like at some point it just becomes both when you've kind of figured it out. It gets to a place of really having to meet this new version of you that was always there, but perhaps the woman was stuffing down or repressing or was just ignorant of it being there. Again, she didn't have anyone modeling healthy feminine leadership to her. So it's a whole process, and this is what I go through in my coaching and in my education. It's a process that not a lot of us will think about, as far as how do I be in my feminine energy when I'm in leadership in a way that's not quote unquote weak or passive or complacent. Use whatever words you guys have in your mind. And the process is the opposite of what all of us want to do, including me. And the process is a process of getting to know yourself, your deepest qualities, surrendering control. Surrendering more control than you can even imagine in this moment on this podcast in a way that is so uncomfortable, that gets you to face everything about you, things that you have not been wanting to face. It forces you to generate a community of women around you to support you as you're going through that process of letting go of control. And then it starts to allow you and the real feminine characteristics of you to start to emerge. And it's like you're meeting this like beautiful flower that you never even knew existed. But this was after a long, dark, like valley of dealing with all your crap.
This is a phoenix flower, y'all. It has risen from the ashes.
I'm the kind of person where I wish I had a soundboard on my hip, and I'm like, want to come up with a phoenix sound right now, like swoosh, you know? Yeah. I just love sounds. And generating a community of women to witness you in that process, but also help build you back up to whatever that version of you emerges.
Wow. That is the whole process. And it really does take, again, in my opinion, and it's my show, but it does take someone with expertise and the wherewithal to guide you through that process. I mean, there are things that, yes, we can do on our own. There's a lot of self-help, personal development, and there's books, different things you can do on your own. But I believe, and Lauren, I think you would stand to agree, that you really need someone to come alongside you and lead you, right? To hold you accountable, to really kind of hold your feet to the fire and say, hey, girl, you said you wanted to have growth in this area, but what are you going to do about it? Or you said you were going to do something about it, but yet you're kind of still in that same space. And I feel like the true changes come when you have something to lose, right? Like you've taken partnership with a coach, or you've enrolled in a class, or you've done something that says, hey, I'm invested in this certain way. Because when we have to attach an investment to it. It becomes real, right? Otherwise, we'll just, yeah, I'll start on that next year. I'm a work in progress, right? Oh, I'll get around to it. You know, the different things that we tell ourselves and we know we're just procrastinating and becoming better versions of ourselves, right? Love me as I am. Only God can judge me. Okay, ma'am, that's your excuse to stay in the same spot and not grow. I'll love you from afar. So with that being said, Lauren, you touched on the masculine energy and you touched on what it is to grow into that feminine space, to embrace it, right? As we, as a society, are reshaping our views on how we see women in leadership. But I know there's a phrase, I've heard you use it several times. I know it's important to you, but the listeners don't know yet. So kind of break down really quickly in the short time we have left, softening your heart, right? Because I know a lot of people initially they'll be like, oh, she just said don't be soft, right? That's not required to be feminine. But what does that actually mean, right? And how it relates to personal growth and success, particularly for women who are seeking to build their personal brands?
Yeah, I think the word I used earlier was weak, which I hear a lot of women say when we're in our beginning conversations of learning about the feminine process. And I think there is a collective definition of being a woman is weak. And I want all of us to break up with that word. And if we need to even switch it around, like, remember, I forgot who it was. Was it Brené Brown who started saying vulnerability is not weakness, it's a strength, right? So let's switch our minds. Let's change our minds around this whole feminine is weakness thing, because I know you guys have at least one woman in your circle or in online right now where you're just like in awe at how she carries herself and what she accomplishes. So when I say softening your heart, there are lots of ways that we, including me, have hardened our hearts from past disappointments, past failures, maybe some lingering beliefs that we aren't worthy of X, Y, Z, of love, of more money, of being a good mom, of being a good daughter. And softening our hearts is a call or an invitation for us to look at the reasons why we may have hardened our hearts or why we might be holding on to bitterness, and to deal with those things. Because at the end of the day, when I see women go through this process of surrendering control and blossoming to who they fully are, then their hearts are naturally softened. So there's that scripture, guard your heart. I feel like you know the exact scripture. What is it? What is it?
Well, I mean, the Bible talks about guarding our heart in a lot of places, but here. Proverbs 4:23, above all else, guard your heart before it determines the course of your life. And that's the Message translation. Okay.
Love that, right? If we could just sit here and have a whole episode to talk about the scriptures on guarding your heart. So it's showing us that our heart is a very precious thing that God has given us as women. Men too, but we're women. So guard your heart. This talks on spiritual discernment. And so maybe there have been places in our past where we didn't have the best discernment and we had to grow our character to grow our discernment to where we could have our hearts accessible to God, but then also use God's gifts through our hearts as well. So our hearts are really important. That's why I say soften your heart, because if there's any walls or blockages in our heart, it really prevents us from being fully who God designed us to be for the world.
Absolutely. I agree. And it's something that I speak a lot about in terms of the perception of what it means to be sensitive. I know, especially in the community I grew up in, it was always talked down upon. Oh, you're just being sensitive, or oh, this. And as if it's like a dirty thing, right? You must be strong and you can't be sensitive. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I'm sensitive to the fact that you're being real hurtful right now. Or, I'm sensing, right? It's how we're perceiving the things, and it's not a dirty word. It's not a bad thing. So yeah, I agree, kind of switching how we're processing these words and what they mean to us, and how we exude them and put them back out into the world. Because now I was having a conversation recently with my husband where I told him, I was like, man, we are the adults like now. Like, we're the parents. We're the ones that are being, looked up to. We're in charge of the things. And that is a whole other scope, not just parenthood, but just when you realize that, oh, okay, I'm here, and I need to be aware of what I'm putting out there, who's looking at me, and what I'm doing, and what I'm choosing to perpetuate, right? Not just about myself, but about other women, or, my different views, etc. So y'all, you guys don't know this, but Lauren and I, we got together before the podcast, and we said, we're going to talk about all these different things, and we're not going to be able to reach them all. So Lauren, we may need to have a part 2.
Love that.
We may need to have a part 2, but I just, in the interest of time, because working women, busy women, I don't care if you're living your best soft life, you don't have all the time in the world, okay? So as women, we're always on the go. And of all the things we've talked about, or even maybe if we haven't, I want to bring up the final word, because we're at that time already. It went by so fast. Lauren, the final word is what you want every woman listening right now to this podcast to take away, whether we've covered it already or we haven't. It is the main thesis. It is the, girl, if you don't remember any other thing, remember this right here, right now. This is what I need you to know.
I would use this softening the heart thing, and I would use new words, a new directive on top of that. If you are a woman and you're like, soften my heart, that's okay. That's okay. Maybe you don't yet focus on softening your heart. Maybe you focus on something a little more apparent in your life, which to me is where in your life, choose one area right now, today, where you might be being too rigid about something. So the word here is rigidity. Again, I am a culprit as well. This is my problem in a lot of areas. On a day-to-day basis, where could I be being less rigid? Release control. In turn, you will be able to soften your heart.
Wow. Lauren said y'all need to loosen up. Stop saying no, and stop being so judgmental, and stop being so hard on yourself.
Yep. That's
what she said, y'all. She said it in a really sweet way. It was definitely more professional than me. But no, I mean, all fun and games aside, it's true. We are our biggest critics. And that's what the beauty of this project is for me, this podcast. It's for us to just get together and to be real, right? Like, we wear so many, society says hats, I say tiaras. We have so many different roles. We're constantly on all the time. We've got different postures and different things we have to do. So this is a space for us to really get together and just be girlfriends and just be honest and say, look, fix it. This is how, I'm bringing resources and experts from different industries, and for us to all come together and just be honest, about our lives and our situations. So yeah, Lauren said y'all need to loosen up, okay? So you can have softer hearts and ultimately stronger minds and stronger leadership. So I know that you all love Lauren as much as I do, and you're gonna wonder, how do we get more? So Lauren has a website, femininedevotion.com, and you can catch her on all the socials. I see Twitter, I see Instagram, I see Facebook. She is there in all of her beautiful God-given glory. And if you are already a part of our Facebook community, Lauren is in there, y'all. So don't spam her, okay? Let's have respect for our guests. However, you can connect, reach out to her about her services. Don't waste her time, though, because we don't do that over here. But you want more of Lauren and what she has to say. You may have some follow-up questions. Post your questions in the group. And I'm sure as soon as she's able, she would be more than glad to answer your questions, correspond with you, potentially partner with you, whatever that looks like. But wow, wherever you are, wherever you're listening, just give it up a huge round of applause. And thank you for Lauren for spending her precious time here with us, getting us together and softening our hearts so we can strengthen our leadership. Lauren, thank you so, so much. Lauren Nicole Peters, y'all, Feminine Devotion. Please stay on the lookout for her because she is amazing.
Mwah.
Thank you for tuning into another empowering episode of Crown Level Confidence with Kalia Janae. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and found it both insightful and inspiring. If you'd like to be a featured guest on the show and share your journey of confidence and self-belief, please reach out to me at podcast@kaliajanae.com. I'm always eager to connect with remarkable individuals who have a story to tell. And for those interested in connecting with me for speaking engagements or mindset coaching, you can find more information on my website, kaliajanae.com. I'd love to hear from you and explore how we can work together to inspire and empower others. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode filled with actionable tips and heartfelt stories. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd truly appreciate it if you could leave a review on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners and inspire even more people to straighten their crowns. Remember, your journey to unstoppable confidence is a continuous adventure. I'm happy to support you every step of the way. Keep believing in yourself, keep shining, and always wear your crown with pride. Until next time, this is Kalia Janae, your host, signing off. Stay confident, stay empowered, and keep leveling up.